He went out a little bit faster than he planned to, but not so fast that it cost him. So how much slower should I go if I blew up at the end? Well, this formula is going to tell you. So you have exactly on your next race, exactly what pace you should go out on. If the difference was more, it means you messed up just a little bit. And that's okay. Races aren't all supposed to be world class and perfect, but it means you have more potential. Okay, it means you can run faster. So what we're talking about is the world record that was just broken 2 days ago. Now, what an amazing feat this was. You've seen pictures, you've seen video of Kipchoge when he crossed the finish line and all the celebrations and everything, but take a look at this picture here. Just look at Kipchoge's face. It's not just the joy that he broke the world record. Now, there's immense joy that he did that, but this celebration, this kind of showing up that he does, I saw it with over a mile to go in the race. And you could see him smiling for like the second half of the race. And now this is something that we want to take home, because this is a man who is not just running for the time. And that's key. That's key. So before we jump into his splits, he's not running for the time. What happens is that he becomes, and at the press conference he says this, what happens before the race is that he becomes the kind of runner who naturally has the time. Now that's really important, because when you toe the line for your race and you want to set a PR, you want to get your BQ, if you want to get your BQ, for example, you can't show up to the race and hope that you're going to run your BQ and become the BQ runner. What needs to happen is that before the gun goes off, on the starting line, in the days before, the weeks before, the months before, you need to become the kind of person who has the BQ, and then when the gun goes off, it's only natural that you get your BQ, right? Same thing with Kipchoge. Kipchoge said he was going to break the world record, and there were a bunch of naysayers. Now, who cares what they say? What matters is what Kipchoge says. He didn't say, I'm going to do my best and we'll see what happens. He said, world record going down. He knew what he wanted. He made a definite plan to get it. And then when the gun goes off, he already has it. He simply needs to execute. And execution on pace is what we're talking about here. So we're going to jump into this. I'm going to play a little video for you, and I want you to listen, because he's going to comment on his pace, and then we're going to break down his pace.
He knew that he didn't get things exactly right 4 years ago. I don't think he's got it exactly right today. I mean, let's work out his second half. His first half, 59-51. His second half is something like 61-17, there or thereabouts.
Be uncharitable, but there is still room for improvement, and that's what makes this so exciting. But let's just enjoy these pictures and enjoy Eliud Kipchoge's moment.
All right, so what's special about that? What's important about that is that the commentator says he didn't get it exactly right. Now, is that true? Because the commentator is implying that in order to get it exactly right, he must run a negative split. And this is kind of a mind explosion here. Those of you who are in Run Elite, you've heard me say this before, there's a formula in order to pace for your fastest time ever. And here's the formula. We're going to jump into a little training here, and we're going to break down each of his split and how he did it. Here we go. Kipchoge's first half, 59-51. Now, Kipchoge said later on, in an interview after the race, that his intention was to go through in 60-30 or 61 or something like that. He was fast. He was faster than he intended. Is that an error? Well, it's an error if you then sabotage yourself. But Kipchoge knows his fitness. So I would say this is not an error. He just went through the first half a little bit fast. And when you're as fit as Kipchoge, you can do this. But let's look at, okay, his second half, 61-17. So this gives him his total time, world record, 2:01:09, right? So what's the difference between these two splits? And the difference is 86 seconds. Now, is that good, or could he have done better? Here's the answer. There is a formula that I talk about with your pacing, and that is the 2% rule. Now, the 2% rule says that if you want to run the fastest time possible across any distance, you want to run basically even, and then pick it up at the end and kick at the end. And so you're going to run a negative split, and it's going to be a very slight negative split if you do it that way. But what if you just dog it in the first half, and you go out 5 minutes slower, 2 minutes too slow in the first half, and then you really pick it up at the end, and you run a negative split? So you ran this negative split that I'm recommending, but did you run as fast as you could? Because if you just dog it in the first half, then of course you can run fast in the second half. So the key is you want the second half to be no more than 2% faster than your first half. And if you do that, then you can pretty much lock in that you ran about the best that you're possibly capable of. Now, if your second half is 5% faster, good. You didn't blow up. You paced it intelligently, but it means you left something on the table. It means that you could have gone slightly faster in the first half and had an improved time. So if we take the 86-second difference and we divide it by his time, what do we get? Well, look off to the right here. What we get is 1.18%. And so what that tells us is that what is ideal pacing? Now, I want you to focus in on what your peak race is. If you're a 5K or a half marathoner, 10K, if you're a half marathon and below, then the ideal pacing is even with a slight pickup at the end. Ideal pacing is even with a slight pickup at the end. What does that really mean? It means that you ran a negative split, but only by a small amount, right? That's ideal pacing. And that is how you win when I say win, how you get your best time from the mile all the way through the half marathon. We know this for sure. Now, every single world record that's ever been set until 2 days ago has been set with a negative split. But he set a world record with a positive split. So the marathon actually changes the game. So from the 1 mile through the half marathon, take a screenshot of this. You want to do a negative split where the first half is less than 2% slower than the second half. What if you're in the marathon? In the marathon, you want to run either a negative or a positive split or even split. They all will work provided that neither half, so I wrote it here as first half and second half, are less than 2% different from each other. So in any order. If you do that, because of the duration of the marathon, when you really push it, you might actually be blowing up a little bit at the end. And what we want to avoid is a mega blow up at the end. A mega blow up at the end, right? So Kipchoge, I would hardly say he mega blew up at the end. And in fact, his second to last kilometer, so his third to last kilometer was the slowest of his race. His second to last kilometer, he picked it up and he ran 20 seconds faster, and then he kicked it in. He knows what he's doing. So what about if you're an ultra runner? In an ultra runner, you often actually will run a positive split. So 50K, 50 mile, 100 mile, 200 mile, you're probably going to run a positive split. And the reason is simply because your body is exhausted. And there's not much that you're going to do about it. You're going to run out of glycogen for sure. You may have GI issues. You may have deep fatigue, sleep deprivation. You stop at aid stations. You have to actually maybe stop and eat. And you don't want to worry about your pace and feel like you're getting behind because you don't want to stop and eat. You want to stop and eat. And so that may throw off your splits. So ultimately, what does that mean for you? It's pretty simple, right? I want you to take a look at your splits from the last race that you did. Now, if you're half marathon or below, I want you to look at the first half, second half, and I want you to evaluate, were you 2% or more or less different in either of the halves? If the difference was more, it means you messed up just a little bit. And that's okay. Races aren't all supposed to be world-class and perfect, but it means you have more potential, okay? It means you can run faster. It means you can run faster. This is good news. So I want you to take the analytics off your GPS from your last race and actually do the math on this. All you have to do is take your first half and your second half and then find the difference. You're going to take that time and you're going to divide it by your total time. Simple, right? Take the difference between the two and divide it by the total time. That's going to give you the percentage. And if that number is greater than 2, what you want to do is either, if you ran positive split, you want to go out slower. And it's going to tell you exactly how much slower to go. So how much slower should I go if I blew up at the end? Well, this formula is going to tell you. So you have exactly on your next race, exactly what pace you should go out on. Make sense? Now, if you ran the marathon and you bonked at the end, I want you to do this exercise as well. And if you ran more than 2% slower at the end, it means you went out too fast. If you ran less than 2%, it means you are an ace at pacing and you really did run about the fastest that you're capable of. Now, in an ultra, it's a different game. We'll do a different training on that. So we can learn from the master. He is a master at basically everything when it comes to the marathon. And let's not forget the longevity that Kipchoge has had in his career, because we remember him right now for his outstanding marathons that he's done. But if we rewind, before he even ran his first marathon, he was on the track. And he ran on the track for over 10 years at a world-class level. So he's become a master over decades and decades of excellence. And what he did here was no mistake. He went out a little bit faster than he planned to, but not so fast that it cost him. Now, here's a rule for you, okay? For every minute that you go out faster than your average pace in the first half of a marathon, it is going to cost you 2 minutes on the back end, maybe 3. It's going to cost you at least 2 minutes on the back end, all right? So with Kipchoge, with this formula, we can kind of deduce that he did go ever so slightly fast, but it was by such a small margin that he didn't blow up. So the difference was 86 seconds, so 43 seconds too fast, and arguably double that is what it slowed him down. So 43 seconds is my prediction for how much faster he is capable of going. 43 seconds. And I will never discount Kipchoge. I think he could probably break 2 even on a legit course. But we know that based off this formula, he's capable of roughly a 2 hours flat 27. 2 hours flat 27. Because this formula does not fail. You can find this, and I didn't make this up. This comes from the research on how world records have been set. So the last thing that I want to share with you here is I will share with you a couple of running leaders, what they did. We had a runner named Nathan, and we had to, I'm sorry, not Nathan, he's in the military, but we had Trevor. Trevor's in the military too. He had to do his 2-mile PT test, and when he came to me, he was running a 1640, and we got him down to a 1320, and we did that in 2 months. Now, you're not likely to gain that much fitness in 2 months, no. But what you can do is don't go out so fast. So all we did was we changed his pacing and we had him drill pace awareness, pace awareness, pace awareness, pace awareness. And when it came time on the day, here's the reason why people positive split. You probably positive split as well. I've done it many times, right? The reason people positive split is not because we don't know better. It's simply because we get the adrenaline going, and guess what? Everybody goes out too fast. Virtually everybody in every race goes out too fast. And we don't want to be that last place person. So we want to at least keep up with the back of the pack or the middle of the pack and keep our place. And then catch and go as we go. So we compare ourselves with other people, and that causes us to go out too fast. Now what Trevor did when he took all that time off of his 2-mile was I told him, look, when all of your comrades go out in the first lap, the first half mile, the first mile even, they're going to be way ahead of you. You may be in dead last place, and you have to be okay with that because you're running intelligently. And when you get to the end, half mile to go, you're going to pass them all. And guess what happened in his race? He was dead last through 6 laps. 6! And then everybody died, and he passed everybody, and he came in first. And he took all that time off of his race. He took off 3:20 or something like that from his 2-mile. He did it twice, so he didn't do that in one race. He did that over 2 races, okay? And one more anecdote, because it's just kind of fun. When I myself was running in college, this seems like a long time ago, we were a Division III school and normally got our butts kicked because we ran against all Division I schools who were really good, all right? But it came down to our conference meet, and the conference was just Division III schools. And our team actually won. It was awesome because we were good for D3, but not for D1. And at that race, I ran the steeplechase. And I knew that my coach didn't like how I paced because I did my best to pace it evenly and run negative split. And everybody else goes out really fast. So when the gun went off, this is a 7.5 lap race. I think there were 8 people in the race. When the gun went off, I quickly found my way to last place. And I was in last place for a long time. At, I believe it was 5 laps into a 7.5 race, I started picking off people and I got into 3rd place. Coming in with 2 laps to go, I was in 2nd place. And then at some point, with maybe 600 meters to go, I passed the 1st place guy and I was in 1st. And I ended up winning that race. And I don't say that to impress you. I say it to impress upon you that when the race was done, my coach said to me, he said, wow, you really picked it up at the end there. He thought I was dogging it at the beginning. He's like, wow, you really picked it up. I looked at my splits, and I had actually positive split. Very little bit, only by a couple seconds, but I actually slowed down. But I passed everybody. And the illusion is that you're just flying by people. And that's the power of pacing. You have to take the blow to the ego that you're going to be a little bit behind. Now, if you're as good as Kipchoge, guess what? When he runs a conservative first half, he's still winning because he's flipping Kipchoge. But unless you're up there like that, you really want to be conservative. You really want to be conservative because it's going to blow you up. Okay, so that's all we have here for today. So thank you so much, XOXO. Love all you guys. Catch you on the next one. If you leave comments if you're on the replay and you leave a comment, I will get back to you. Try to get back to everybody. Take care. Goodbye. Hey, if you liked that video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And the best way to give back is to take the link for this video and send it to just one of your friends. It really helps us grow. We appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see you on the next video. And there he is, Kipchoge, with the smile on his face. We're not sure if it's a grimace or a smile, but he always tends to bring it home with the happy.